One thing that I always tell merchants is you have your face, and your face can be a marketing asset. That is something that the big brands do not have, and that is something you can use for your own advantage. Nothing's more memorable to a human than a human face, and especially kind of a human face with personality. You have Instagram, you have YouTube, you have these potential engagement pointers, and at the same time helps you as well, because it's going to be a lot more trustworthy to buy from somebody that is all out in the open, rather than somebody who seems to be hiding a little bit, that a lot of the dropshippers tend to do.
You're listening to Ecomonics, a Debutify podcast, your resource for one-of-a-kind insights into the world of e-commerce and business in the modern age. This is Joseph. I'll be presenting a wealth of industry knowledge from interviews with successful business people and our own state-of-the-art research. Your time is valuable, so let's go. My talk with Samuel Larsen of CRO Gurus is jam-packed with the kind of high-value e-commerce content you crave. You're going to want to get your pen and paper ready. Sam has a distinct background in professional poker, a game that, as he puts it, punishes you for losing the closer you are to winning. It's the kind of risk-taking venture we in e-commerce, or frankly business at large, have to be prepared for. Let me ask you something. Have you ever played poker just for fun? Okay, it's possible, but you know as well as I do that poker is a game played to be won. And after you're done today's episode, you too should put your mind in that state. Samuel Larsen, it is good to have you here in Ecomonics. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're a busy fella, so how you doing? How you feeling today?
Thank you. My pleasure. Feeling all good. It's been a good year for e-commerce. Not a good year for the world, but we'll take it now. So
there's some proportionality to it, right? Like for it to be a good year in e-commerce, there had to be a lack in other areas too. It's just showed how important e-commerce is in order to keep the world running as smoothly as it can under the circumstances.
Yes, there's like nature and capitalism. They do tend to balance things out. So they've done a good job here.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe down the line we can. And I don't know about today, but like at some point, I'd love to get into a chat about like how natural capitalism isn't. And for the record, I am pretty pro capitalism. I recognize there's flaws, but just the nature of trade and people wanting to exchange goods for each other. It gets once we stop trying to hit each other with rocks. That's like one of the things that like comes up.
Yes, you need to have incentives for people to stop doing that. And making money and making wealth for yourself and people around you is a good incentive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many ways that we can characterize it. Do good for others, solve problems. I think that's my favorite one in e-commerce, which is solve problems for others. And I think that speaks a lot to why marketing is important: is identifying people's problems and offering the solution to it. With that said, we've got a very important question for you. I've asked everybody, well, pretty much everybody. I might have skipped the first few because I forgot to I didn't think of the question at the time, but whatever. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm Samuel Larsen. I'm the founder of CROGurus.com. So we are a Shopify optimization agency, and we focus on helping you as a merchant get the most out of your existing traffic. So once the traffic hits the page, that is where we focus on. And we focus on working on conversion optimization, average order value optimization, and purchase frequency optimization. So keeping that loop going from first lander to all the way to a repeat customer.
So once the customers arrive, so marketing is something that I don't know you can advise on if possible, but it's really more like the marketing is is your clients and your partners. How do you characterize them, by the way? Just so I know, do you refer to the people who work with you as clients? Do you refer to them as partners, patrons?
Yeah, I usually like to think of they start off as clients, but ideally everybody ends up as partners. But that will only happen once we worked on through several months and get good results for these clients. And that's when you start to get to know their business also quite intimately. And you are really pulling through the same strings as they are on a long-term basis.
Yeah, I mean, just to relate to what I was doing prior to e-commerce, and longtime listeners can be like, well, I can tune out for the next 2 minutes because I've heard this before, but whatever. It's when I was doing editing and freelance work, yeah, I would call them clients, but I wanted to view them more as partners, and the idea that while they are going to compensate me for my time, I knew that the more I put into it, the more value I was willing to provide. Helped retain customers, retain their business, but also it helped me sleep at night too, because I knew that I was investing long term in the project's growth. I wasn't just taking the money and running. I was doing everything I could think of, really for my own self preservation, at the very least, to like make sure that like this show sticks around. And what I also found too is that like there was a churn rate where I would have to churn people out, but really the people I churned out were people that like I just didn't want to deal with anymore. People who had personality conflicts or were taking too much advantage, paying too much, but paying too little, working too much. So yeah, I would like to hear about some of your client experiences, which we'll table, because I was racking my brain trying to think, have we talked about CRO before? And I feel like we have. Like it's definitely an important subject, and I've talked to quite a few people. So if any listener can call me out on this and say, yeah, actually, it was this guy 2 weeks ago he talked about for CRO, email podcast@debutify.com because I owe you a Coke. But other than that, can you let us know what is conversion rate optimization? I know I've heard of it before, but let's give it to our listeners from the beginning.
Conversion rate optimization as a term is a bit outdated, you could say, since you are really not optimizing for conversion rate anymore, especially on e-commerce. The other important metrics there are, of course, average order value as well. And one way you could optimize if you just wanted to improve your conversion rate would be to lead with your cheapest products. But if you do that, what's going to happen to your profits and your margins? Like they're all going to go down, and you're not going to have a business. So what we're more focused on is conversion optimization, or optimizing for the right conversion, and then also optimizing for backend conversions as well. And there's a lot of finesse to it, of course, because oftentimes if you optimize for average order value, you are hurting your conversion rate. So it's a little bit of a sliding scale, and you're constantly trying to balance that to maximize for that revenue per user or revenue per visitor rather than the conversion rate.
Now, you said one thing that you mentioned is about if people put too much emphasis on their cheaper products, and even if it sells and ships, it doesn't bring in enough profitability to keep the business sustainable. Now, when I heard that, it reminded me of the term loss leader, where there are products that are sold at a good enough value to the customer to want to get them to interact with the business. And then over time, they'd be more inclined to start looking into the higher ticket items and the higher ticket purchases, or just build that long-term loyalty. And to use I'm going to use a very a grassroots, like brick and mortar example. My parents would go to a Lebanese bakery, and they would sell the vegetable. I'm stuck on shawarma, and I know it's not shawarma. Samosas, that's it. And they would sell the veggie samosas, and they would sell them for cheap, but it got people in the door, and it gave people a chance to look around. So I'd like to jump on that for a second. Is have you experienced people like properly using their loss leaders in a way that then successfully converts into the higher ticket purchases?
I have. Getting people in the door has a little bit of a different meaning in e-commerce, since if you think of a physical experience of going to a store and purchasing from there, you are committing to that physical movement there, as well as seeing the people there and seeing all the different things. With e-commerce, you can just go straight to the product, hit the product page, and hit checkout, and then you are going to get the product sometime later. Within this time frame, it's very possible that you even forgot the entire store where you ordered from. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, there's where it gets a little bit trickier to lead with cheaper products, and most likely there's a little bit less of value in the e-commerce world to do that compared to the physical world. Like if you think of how Walmart, for example, built itself, there was always something on sale that was like ridiculously cheap, and then you'd go there, you'd get a couple of other products on the cart, and then you'd go back to see what's on sale now. But with e-commerce, it's quite different, because you are often just bombarded with so many options, and it's so easy to hop on from store to store. So there, this principle is less powerful. However, you can think of it as a loss leader where it leads to back-end offers and upsells. And right now, these are very easy to set up, for example, in Shopify, because Shopify just started this integration. It's now natively built into it, where you can offer upsells very easily. So I think we are going to see a little bit of a resurrection of this kind of model where people are leading out with those cheaper offers and then trying to break even on the front end if possible and making sure that they can then monetize that on the back end.
So one parallel that I'd like to draw then is because you're saying about people walk into a business and a physical location, and I laugh because last time, I mean, basically the only time I get to do that is when I go shopping at our local No Frills or the Subway. So it doesn't come out very often, but there is a lot of effort put into it, and you can almost say that what goes on in the store to create the experience is part of the marketing because you think of like a coffee shop, for instance. The coffee is probably where they make the money, but they also charge a premium for it. I could spend a quarter of that money if I just made the coffee for myself at home. But there might be books there, it might smell nice. There might be like a rustic chair that like is really good for my lumbar. So with stores, now you have to forgive me if this isn't where you focus because I'm still learning about if you lean more towards like optimization on the back end or optimization on the front end. So you can definitely help me break that down. But what examples have you seen of stores trying to mimic that experience to keep customers more compelled? Is it color scheme? Is it using stuff like affiliate marketing, remarketing, blogs? What are customers doing to make their experience more memorable, which I presume leads to better conversion?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, this is a great question. And I'd like to think of it as in terms of why should people buy from you as opposed to buying from Amazon? And what are the opportunities for you to differentiate as a Shopify store owner compared to fulfillment by Amazon merchants? And there you do have some really key areas that you can focus on. Now, people in general, they don't like or they would prefer to buy from the mom and pop compared to Amazon. You have so much more personality there. You can show that you are an expertise in this niche, etc. So you have a ton of advantages. Now the question is, how do you provide a unified experience that is so powerful, not only in terms of brand expertise, but also emotionally relevant in a way that the people are then going to remember. So that's a very key thing because if you're not able to stick to people's minds, then you are going to be that one order shop at most. And consumers, as you mentioned there with the coffee experience, like the coffee is probably quite similar in quality. However, the experience is what you're paying for in that example. And that can be the key differentiator between a store where you just get the product, Amazon, for example, or similar things, versus your store. So, what can you provide beyond the product, whether it's like things like even packaging or backend messaging, email flows, experience, expertise, like all this additional value.
But the tricky thing too, I guess, about me using coffee shop as the parallel is that people hang out there. And so while a store can have a great shopping experience, people don't hang out there so much. There's not risk, on the shelf that they can pull out and play with their friends. So hanging out on a store is online. It seems to me that like one of the main things to do that is content, is having a blog or even going as far as like a video series, so that customers will actually like stick around and actually feel like they're starting to hang out. But there's another divide there too, which is the lack of the social experience. Is that when people go and they hang out in the store, it's all like on their own. Have you seen stores where they actually will have maybe like, I guess you can have reviews, right? You can see what other people are saying, but there's no like interaction between the different customers.
Yeah, people and stores have tried to solve this. For example, if you look at the looks reviews, those photo reviews that you have on the product pages, that is all about the social experience and identifying with the other customers. So that is one way to do it. But one thing that I always tell merchants is you have your face, and your face can be a marketing asset. That is something that the big brands do not have, and that is something you can use for your own advantage. So there, nothing's more memorable to a human than a human face, and especially kind of a human face with a personality. So definitely use that. But I'll also say you need to move the thinking from just a one-click thinking, where you are going over to Facebook and trying to get people with advertising, to thinking of these multiple touch points, like you mentioned. So you do have something beyond just the Facebook ad. You have Instagram, you have YouTube, you have these potential engagement pointers that people can go then see, okay, I get what this brand is about, and at the same time helps you as well, because it's going to be a lot more trustworthy to buy from somebody that is all out in the open, rather than somebody who seems to be hiding a little bit, that a lot of the dropshippers tend to do.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't like an exact parallel, but dropshippers tend to also be protective of like what store they're running when they're showing it to on their YouTube pages. Which, by the way, I totally understand, because if they reveal it, then there's nothing stopping it from being mimicked top to bottom. They can mimic the product, they can mimic the ad copy, they can mimic all of it. So that I get. But yeah, you are right. Like there is a bit of a protectiveness in it, and I think what it does is it separates the people who have taken the idea of the dropshipping gold rush to heart, where they are viewing it as like the get rich quick scheme, which I don't want to encourage, because this may at one point during development could have would have should have been just a dropshipping podcast, but then we said, well, no, this is a business podcast. This is going to be about something that is core to really most human interaction in one way or another. And so you get the other side of it, people who mean it when they sell something, and you don't necessarily have to you don't have to pour every last vestige of your heart and soul into it. Like one of the products I'm working on, which I will reveal because for me it's just learning. It's those drawers that you can stick to the bottom of your desk. Like I like this thing. I'm ordering it. I'm going to use it. You know, I'm okay with like sharing some of my own experience with it. It's not like I'm ripping my heart out or anything like that. So that all is the emotional side, and I think that does tangibly boost conversion. And another thing too that I thought was a cool observation is that the brand itself is not just relegated to the store. The brand is on the socials. The brand could have its own video presence on YouTube. And so in a way, what it's doing is compelling the user to hang out with the brand. And by hanging out with a brand, they are going to be interacting with other people who are also involved in the brand as well. Like you go on the Instagram, yeah, you can check out their posts, you can comment on it, and then other people will respond. And so you actually get that interactivity.
Yeah.
Which is actually at that point it becomes an advantage over a coffee shop. Whereas like if I know I want to go there physically, I don't care so much about the social side of it, because in my mind I'm like the point of all of this is to go there and physically be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd also say, like, as a business owner, one of your goals should be to have a sellable business. Even if you don't want to sell it, but it should be sellable. So we can think of this in terms of like, how do we increase the value of the business? And one of the ways to increase this is to build a little bit of a moat around your business. So if your business is a dropshipping business, which by the way, I'm not dissing at all, it's a completely legitimate business model and a great way to get started. You can start thinking of building a little bit of a protection around it. So if there's a lot of competition going, you are not just relying on those Facebook ads. And as soon as the competition comes, like you have to find a new product. So they are providing real value, providing something that people can identify with, whether it is, for example, content or something similar, will help you also build a more all-around, well thought out traffic strategy that is not so vulnerable to small changes like Facebook banning you or things like this.
The guy on YouTube, Connor, him and I were being taught by Ricky Hayes, who is the co-founder of Debutify, and we set up a store just to like practice running Facebook ads. He put the Connor puts the ads out. His account gets restricted because here's what happened: it had sent the product to the link took it to the specific product page, which was supposed to be a no-no. You're supposed to send it like to the main landing website. And then my account, I just found this like 2 days ago, my account got restricted too. I didn't even run the ads. I was guild by association. So yeah, Facebook is it's kind of it's chaotic in there, but we do have to depend on it a great deal for the advertising. So this is all really good. This is all the importance of the human being first and foremost, the business, and rooting for them as opposed to rooting for Amazon. And I think like Amazon in particular, and I love that like everybody that I've talked to who is like a fan or is like a part of the Amazon culture is like totally okay with mentioning about like how Amazon has a very bad reputation for the way they treat their employees. And if Amazon wants to come at me for saying that, bring it. Honestly, that's just only going to injure people to me anyways. And so we have that. I mean, it's not even like a neutral thing. Like Amazon is like, I don't know. I don't have any data on this, but I think people feel like crap when they order from Amazon. A large part, either like they don't know what's going on, or they know and they're like, "Well, I gotta get it somewhere."
Yeah, Amazon for many parts is like it's a product catalog, and you buy based on price and reviews. That's what you do, but you don't have any kind of bigger feelings about those brands or buying them for a specific reason. It just seems like a good choice. That's it. And that emotional aspect is just completely missing. It's a transaction.
Yeah, it completely is. So for listeners who maybe have missed the episode with Steve Pope, who's my Amazon guy, but his brand, and I suppose he is my Amazon guy at this point. But he made the point of like the bed that we ordered from Amazon. I can't remember the name of the brand, and I've been sleeping on it for 6 months now. I touch my bed more than I touch my girlfriend, and yet I'm not connected to the brand, and I'm not connected to Amazon. So with all of that out of the way, that's all really important. And I'm glad we brought that up because I wanted to hear your take on the importance of the human side of it. But I want to know, what are the other pillars to optimization? Do we also get into the technical side of it, where we have to look at what apps are running, the website loads times? What are some of the key pillars that you look into for helping make sure the websites are running as smoothly as possible, leaning more towards back end than front end in this case?
Yeah. So in that case, like what you first want to do before you can be very persuasive and smart, for example, with your copywriting, the very basic thing you need to have is accessibility and functionality. And that's where the things you mentioned there, load times and a technically functioning store, are very important. So what happens oftentimes with Shopify themes is that once you start populating them, they break here and there a little bit, since they are not configured to work with all different texts and text sizes, fonts, different images, different size of images. And then store owners, it's like an iceberg. Like they only see that there's a couple of things that could be wrong with the store. There's a whole another thing underneath when it comes to technical possible responsivity issues that need to be mapped out. And the way we do it is simply picking up the devices, the most popular devices, and going through the store. It's manual, it's tedious, and oftentimes it's quite time consuming. However, these are the greatest things to find out, because we have such high confidence that if we fix a technical bug, if this button is not working on iPhone 11 and we fix it, we're going to get more conversions from iPhone 11. So that's a nice immediate win that the store owners can do and take, and definitely they should investigate these issues on a regular basis because they are so common. And there on the other side, you often have store owners that they have tried to make their store convert better by adding more stuff to it. So it's just like constantly adding more stuff. More stuff meaning more apps, more images, more video, like everything. And there you start hitting that point where more apps is not going to help your store convert better. It's just going to hurt you, because apps cause load time issues. And there you often get into this situation as well, like where you have 3 or 4 overlaying elements on mobile, and the site just looks very trashy and cheap because of that. And these are all things that you need to find the balance there.
Okay, I wanted to ask about the apps in particular, because what I'm thinking is you're talking about the apps that are installed on the back end in Shopify. So it's not like that they're all necessarily front facing, but these are all things running in the background that are starting to eat away at the website's ability to load. What's the average? Like under 3 seconds, under 2 seconds, something along those lines?
You'd really want to get there. However, when we look at the sites, on average, we see more like 4 to 7 seconds. That's what I'd say. It's a more typical average. And when you have people on mobile phones, they can be very impatient. And a good way to think about this is if you ever seen a teenage girl use Instagram and how fast they can go, that's your mobile shopper. They have no patience at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just thinking, I was like scrolling through a subreddit. Well, it's actually a sub. It's not actually on a Reddit because the community was taken off Reddit. That's a little clue for the listeners if you want to learn more about me. But anyways, the I was starting to get impatient. I'm like, man, all right, I closed it, and then I reopened the subreddit again because I was so compelled to find something new. I'm like, did I just like get bored of this? And then my first reaction was to go back to the same thing. Yes, it was. I got to ask about this. Like, how do people like start like removing the ones that are? I imagine that people are putting apps in because they think they're going to help. So, like, what apps do people think are helping, and it turns out that maybe they're redundant, or another app already is handling it, or it's not implemented correctly. I don't know if we want to start like calling out ones in particular because it might work for one person but not for another. But how do we churn out what apps we don't need?
Yeah, before you start installing this randomly, I'd say think of the strategy and what you're really looking to achieve with the app. Because many times you can uninstall them, but they still leave some code into the themes. So you'd have to go and manually uninstall them. So it can be a little bit tricky there. But I'd say like generally you're just looking to have one app per function. So if you think of what you're looking to do in terms of changing user behavior. So for review app, let's say you have the photo review app. That's like clearly you're looking to have social proof and trust. That's what you're looking to achieve with that app.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you still need that thing that says like 2 minutes ago somebody from San Jose bought this thing? Like you have now less need for that thing, and there you need to consider like whether that's going to be
Right.
helpful. And that's like your overall app strategy, as I would take it. And at some point, like you're going to have enough. So there's enough social proof here. We don't need any more. And if you start like pouring more, it's just going to pour over from the bucket. Like you can't pour more water than is needed in the day.
Yeah, it overflows.
Yeah, it overflows. So what you want to do there is make sure that you have taken care of these things. And once you have a sufficient level on that, you can stop and focus on other things, because it is also very difficult to hit on all of these pointers. So let's say you want to explain your value proposition well, have your social proof in place, have some technical information there, like covering all of these different things, delivery information. Like there's so many boxes that you need to still explain. You want the whole to make sense rather than have a random bunch of like million tactics that you're running.
Right. So it's about setting the objectives first, and then recognizing which apps can provide the most amount of value by clearing as many of those objectives as possible. So a great one that stuck out to me is when we have this person bought it at this time in this place. Well, if you also have the photo review app, then it becomes redundant, because as long as you're proving that there's activity, you don't need the first one, and you can extend the value of the second one. Now, granted, I mean, I suppose if I really wanted to get into like each individual blade of grass, one of it covers the purchases, the other covers the reviews. So one is dynamic and one is like posted. So I don't know. I was just like making sure I gave it its due,
Yeah.
but really, like the reviews imply that purchases were made. So
Yeah, exactly. It implies that, and the strongest way to communicate anything is implying it. So if you have that thing there and it looks real, because it's much more difficult to fake photo reviews from customers or supposed customers than having the widget, okay, like somebody bought like 2 minutes ago. So there you achieve the same goal without risking that somebody might see through it.
Well, I think one thing that the instant purchase widget does that I can't also say that the review app does is create the fear of missing out, or just the sense of urgency. I think that it does put a little bit more immediate pressure on the customer because they see that stuff is actively happening. So let's say we axe that one. What do you recommend in specific to keep the sense of urgency going and create the FOMO going?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. The easiest way is to have something is going to ship today if you order it within the next, let's say, 30 minutes or something like that. And make that number random, of course. So that's going to be pretty powerful. Like, okay, this is makes sense. Also, you can have real-timed discounts. So we use this all the time with stores. If you have some kind of a day that you can celebrate, it can be a bit random as well. But let's say you have International Women's Day. Now, you can totally have a sale that is going to end on certain day, certain hour. And that way you can have a very legitimate urgency there. And of course, you can run the sale in 2 weeks again, but that way it is believable, and it also doesn't hurt your brand as much because then you are just running a sale. Another thing there that can help is having a specific landing pages that you are looking to use for campaigns that come from your social. So it's a campaign, clearly, because people, when they go to the store, they don't see the same discount. So on that store page, the price is a lot higher, or a little bit higher at least. And now you feel inclusive about that. People value that a lot more when it is something that they feel like they earned, or they feel like they're in a smaller club compared to the other option.
Yeah. One thing I was just imagining, if like, I don't know if anybody's done this, but if I would like check the calendar and mark off every single last day, even like to the most specific, like our day of revelation for St. Francis of Assisi sale, get 20% off.
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but it still works. I mean, there's all kinds of associations and all those kind of things that like have days. So today there's probably like 17 different days that you could celebrate, and that's completely fine.
Yeah, and I'll see what the Mayan calendar has to say about it, assuming the Mayan calendar is even updated to these days, because I think they checked off it in 2012. Anywho, another thing that I'm wondering too, and this is important for our listeners because we do have a lot of people in the beginner stage, myself included. Like, for 6 months, I didn't. Here's the thing: I didn't set up a Shopify store at the beginning because it felt almost like it wasn't respectful. Whereas like, they're training me to like do the show. They're not training me to like, take my knowledge and run. But eventually I said, okay, you know what? I can only talk to so many people half my age who, live in a mansion or whatever it is. And say, all right, that does it. Anyways, I'm still a beginner though. So I'm definitely in that learning phase. But then you also have people who are well on their way. They've hit the 6K range. They've hit the 7K range. And are there similarities and differences in optimizing for a big company versus a small company?
Yes, for sure. So with small company, you are of course running with limited resources. So your optimization program should be a lot smaller because you should be focused more on the traffic and just trying to make that profitable, which of course CRO will help as well. And if you're still looking to sort of prove your business model or find the right product, their optimization is not going to make that big of an impact for you. Like, of course, it's again contextual. So if you have a horrible store, then it can be a make or break thing. Now with a bigger store, let's say you already have your Facebook ads, your marketing quite dialed in. Now you are probably getting to a point where you are hitting the maximum of that store and it's almost like a ceiling there, and you cannot break free to the next level until you have taken care of your storefront and all the different things that come into play, like email marketing as well on the back end. So there, your strategy is a little bit different. And the tool belt you can have is also a little bit different. So let's focus on the small stores, because most of the listeners are probably more on that side. Now, what you need to be careful of is interpreting the data too much, because you simply don't have all that many conversions. So if you see that there's 7 conversions on the desktop and 2 on the mobile, the conversion rates are like X and Y. You can't say that this is like you have a big problem on mobile conversions, for example. So be careful about that. Well, there are still like some great tools that you can use. So you can still use all the qualitative tools available, meaning you can still watch user session recordings. You can still go to your buddy and ask him to make a purchase and like walk through the store. And those are things that I'd recommend definitely to try as a small merchant. And then also you can ask things like, do people understand what this is about when they just load the page? And those kind of things are very useful for the smaller merchant. So for smaller merchants, it's more about understanding the customer behavior and really trying to put yourself into that under those shoes, and then trying to optimize it from that perspective. Whereas the big stores, they already have the data. They probably have already mapped out the customer personas, and they have quite a good understanding of where things are from that perspective. And there it's more about small tweaks rather than big overall changes. And it's more of an evolutionary process, whereas for small merchants, it can be more of a revolutionary process.
Have you come across examples of a store where once they had gone from small scale to larger scale, it had undergone such a transformation that it actually didn't look like the store had scaled up. It almost looked like it had changed tack, or it had gone through like a significant rebrand or a change in business model? Because it seems to me that that probably wouldn't work. You really need to make sure your foundations are set up when you're small so that they hold the ship together once it's large.
Yeah, there people do get also a bit risk averse once they get that initial success. So very few 7-figure store owners would say like, I'm ready to throw it all away and test something completely different. And well, that might be the case that would enable them to go from 7 to 8 figures, but most likely it's going to take them from 7 figures to 6 or 5 figures, because they already have something that's working, and they don't need to mess with the program so much. We're looking to more keep things that are already working and then build on top of that and change things on that level.
Yeah, that one was a personal curiosity, but I actually would have been surprised if the answer was yes. Like, yeah, we made it to 7 figures. All right, everybody, we're getting into textiles. Yeah. I don't know. I've been picking on textiles like a lot lately. I don't know why. So this is a question that I have asked basically anytime that I get to talk to somebody who has either like an agency or agency adjacent or provides a service where they have clientele or partners coming in from multiple sources. And one of the key advantages is the ability to aggregate data that can then be used to share with all the different clients. So you learn one thing from group A, and it's essential. It could be pivotal information for group K. Have you observed any data that has been collected that really could have only been collected if you'd been able to observe patterns in as many people as you had worked with?
Yeah, they say that the greatest thing about being a consultant is that you are getting paid to learn, and I completely agree with that. What I think is generally like the number.
That's what I love. That's why I love what I'm doing here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one thing that is the overlying theme there is that you do see the rates of add to carts, for example, like you get a very good idea of your benchmarks, and then once you see those changes that have worked for one store, you have a bit of a mental map of being able to then utilize them on other stores as well. But a few things that probably most people are missing on that we see that have huge impact are post-purchase upsells. So upselling right after the thank you page or right before. So people have already paid for their purchase and now they have an opportunity to add something to their cart. Another thing that we see working quite well is having a free shipping threshold. So most people, if they're just focused on conversion rate, they would have free shipping on all orders. But oftentimes that's a little bit of a waste of average order value. Because if you're going to have somebody buy for $40, they might as well have bought for $60 and get that free shipping benefit there. And also at the same time, it feels earned.
Mm-hmm.
Then another thing that we see constantly is how important categorization is. So that you have the right or logical categories and categories that are made for shoppers, not for you as a zone owner. So people oftentimes shop by use case rather than categories. So let's say I'm looking for some clothing for hunting, for example. Then that's my use case. I'm not looking for general jacket that is not suitable for that situation. So there, that helps a lot, and it also makes the site a lot more usable. And another thing I'd say is generally people are a little bit too afraid to also use bundles. So you have people saying that, hey, I like this kind of products. And there's a few different things that would go very well together with that product. Now, why not offer a bundle on that? Because oftentimes these are bought in together anyway. And that's how long term you should also think of building the business itself. Because you have a certain type of file, and that buyer is identifying like, hey, I like this kind of products. And there's like a whole bunch of circle of products there that you can make a lot more value for that customer and also for yourself as a merchant by doing that.
Mm-hmm. And having been a customer myself, even as early as like this morning, is one of the things that I notice about bundles is that it does encourage somebody to maybe get something that they don't think they'll need quite as much as what they were there for in the first place, but it encourages them to then look for what value that they can get out of it. I don't know, just thinking like a kitchen set, for instance, like a tool that I wasn't expecting to get. Well, hold on a second. Now that I've got this, maybe I should revisit my dormant passion for sushi.
Yeah, exactly. Bundles can be the ultimate impulse buy. So you have a product that you were interested in, but now once you get the kitchen set, you might as well like something that's colored the same way or has the same kind of steel. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to add a little bit more toward that order, and you actually increase the value that way as well.
All right, so I know that we don't have you for too much longer, and this has been jam packed with amazing value. So far, I'm like, well, the listeners can't see it, but like I told you guys, we're moving on to video pretty soon. But I've just been taking like as many notes as I can. So what I'd like to do is, while we still have you, because I know it's not much longer, but I do kind of like want to decompress a bit, and I do want to get into just a bit of like the Samuel Larsen backstory. Normally, what happens is, by the way, is that like the backstory stuff comes first, and then we get into it. And I'm finding that this has actually been like a little bit more. Well, it's nice. It's nice to mix things up. I know I always try to base it off what I think is best for the guest. So I'll leave it at that. But here is something that you told us about, because we do have like some pre dialogue going before we meet today. But you were a professional poker player. Now, I got professional, right?
Yeah.
Like you used to play professionally.
Yeah, I played professionally for 5 years. So quite a while, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one of the other two like long-standing questions that was devised over the course of talking to people in Ecomonics has always been, what were you doing prior to e-commerce and what skills came with you? So you were playing poker, and I mean, that's one thing. I also know that you were briefly in business school. So if we have time for that, I also want to hear that story, but I definitely want to make sure we get to the poker stuff. So first of all, let's really tell us about like, what it was like. Cause it playing poker professionally always sounds like, it does sound like fun, and I have enjoyed watching it on television because everybody has, well, they have like their game tools or their props. Like there's hats, there's sunglasses. Like maybe I might be hallucinating, but I thought I saw somebody in like a bandana or something like that. One guy had this. He had this tactic where he would just socialize constantly, and he was just like shooting and shit, like yeah, buddy, yeah. So yeah, anyway, I need to step out or go get a cigarette, and everyone was just like so annoyed. And I think what he was doing is he was making people, he was trying to like throw people out their game. So yeah, what was your experience like? And then transition to totally speaking, we just made that word up. What came with you when you got into e-commerce?
Yeah. Okay, so everybody's poker experience is very unique or different. So mine was none of those things because I worked purely as an online professional tournament poker player. So what
Oh,
I
okay.
would do is open up anywhere between 12 to 20 tables and make a pretty predictable decision every time. But there, the thing is like doing it that on a high enough volume, so those decisions get magnified or multiplied rather so many times. I think that's a very similar to what a lot of e-commerce store owners do. So you run that ad for a ton of people, and you'd like to get a lot of scale toward that. Like so, let's say you sell a $50 product with a $20 profit, and there you need to sell quite a bit to make a full-time living. It's not like you can just sell like a few per day and be completely satisfied with your lifestyle.
Yeah, people like sell one airplane, then they retire.
Yeah. So that's the other extreme about that. But in a way, it's a lot similar to what I'd imagine many e-commerce store owners have on a daily basis. It's a lot of grind on the computer, and it's a lot of discipline to go there and put yourself on the line and focus on that because you can just as well do something else. And it's always easy to not work, but it's a great teacher from that perspective because the number one people in this world are those that take self initiative. And for e-commerce store owners, that's what they have done. Like they have said, like, "Hey, this is my idea. This is my business. I believe in this so much that nobody else is doing it, but I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do." That kind of mindset is something that you need in order to succeed. But there's a lot of similarities there. So poker, I think like if you're looking for a hobby as an e-commerce store owner, pick up poker because it will teach you about psychology. It will teach you to read other people's minds or understanding other people's minds. It will teach you understanding of mathematics. It will be the ultimate analytical teacher for you. And most importantly, you'll also understand variance a lot better. So when things go bad on a daily basis, like as they often do, like let's say your ad runs badly this day, like then you're not going to be there panicking. You understand that like, hey, it's just one day out of many, and you're going to get lucky and unlucky on a long string of random events as you should.
Sorry, there was one part of that that stuck out to me, but I didn't want to
Yeah.
like interrupt. Where you had said that you had like 20 tables open. Sorry, was that simultaneous? Like all of them were on the screen, or you were just like scrolling through tabs?
Yeah, there was a couple of screens, and then
Oh, a
I
couple of
have
screens.
some of
Okay.
them on top of each other, and some of them are laid out differently. I figured out an entire system, and it's sort of optimizing the system as well, similar to what you would have optimizing some of your day-to-day things. Like you just need to find a good way to do it, and yeah, it's at that point it's almost like things are happening so fast that the game is sort of running through you. You're not consciously thinking of it, and it can be one of the most engaging experiences you'd ever have.
Yeah, so one thing that I tend to think about a lot lately is because I played a lot of games and I got into a lot of the competitive scenes, and there's a philosophy. It's called play to win. And the issue that I have, depending on what game people play, is that what they do is they use it as an excuse to do things that are, well, cheap. and gives them an advantage when other people they're drawn to play a game because like they want to play a character or something like that. And it only really occurred to me maybe like a week ago or so where I thought, you know what, those people who are like doing that in those games, they really valued playing to win, and they took that logic to the conclusion. I don't think they would play this game. They would pick a game where, for one, it's more rewarding to win, and two, there's no conflict between like some other why other people might derive joy from it. And I don't want to take anything from like the joy of playing poker, but what I find is that poker is very much like this is a game people are playing to win. For one, it is gambling. You're putting money on the line, so there is that element to it. But I think for people who also want to learn how to win, I was thinking, yeah, poker is probably like the game to play, or maybe chess. But like, did you find that your system and your logic, or your algorithm, or however you want to describe it, did that teach you how to win?
Yeah, I'd say so, because in poker, like maybe like similar to Facebook ads, like if you do a bad Facebook ad, you're gonna lose money if you pick the wrong audience. So one thing that is great about poker is that there's a penalty for losing, and that can be scary. That can make some people like not want to play at all. But that's what also makes that winning mentality so important, and also forces you to play to win. So you do have a penalty, and there's this saying that in sports, like it's okay to finish second, you still get paid, but in poker, the second place is the first loser. And that's if you look at each individual hand, the one that sticks there the longest, and loses on the last betting round, they're going to lose the most money. So
right. I didn't know this, but I guess I figured that in a tournament, the people in like second or third might walk away with like, I don't know, their house fee or something like that. But it really is like winner take all.
Yeah, in an individual hand, it would be a winner take all. And on tournament, you have this little bit of a price structure where you have.
Okay, yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, some people they're paying they got to pay for their flights back home or stuff like that. Yeah, and I think what's important too is that the parallel between that and Facebook ads is that like, depending on the product, other people are playing that hand too. They are also trying to sell that product, and you do want to look at the data and you want to assess the probability and look at the interest and figure out how do I sell this, because if I don't, there's if a customer looks at two ads, they make up their mind on one and not the other person gets nothing. In fact, they lose. So
yes,
there's a lot of conditioning there too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that was great. I appreciate being able to ask you about that one, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we got to get you on out of here. Am I right?
Yeah, correct. Yes. It's been a pleasure though.
Yeah. It has been fantastic. So the last question, this is just our final tradition. If you have any words of wisdom you'd like to impart on people, an answer to a question I didn't ask, this is the chance to do it. And then let people know where they can find you and how they can get involved with what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're interested and if you're already getting a little bit of success with your store, you want to take it to the next level, say you have most of your traffic problems figured out, you can check out crogurus.com, and there you can read more about what I do, what our company does, and how we might be able to help you maximize your Shopify conversions, help you with your average order value and your customer purchase frequency as well. And with that said, thank you for listening. And, all the best for your e-commerce journey.
And thanks to you as well. I learned a lot.
Awesome.
All right, listeners, thank you all for your dedication and your attention. And as always, we welcome your feedback, so you know what to do if you want to send it in. And take care. We'll check in soon. Thanks for listening. You might have found this show on any number of platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or right here on Debutify. Whatever the case, if you enjoyed this content and want to help us thrive, please take a few moments to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you think is best. We also want to hear from you, so whether you think you'd be a good guest or want to weigh in on anything related to our show, you can email podcast@debutify.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Finally, this podcast is created by the passionate team at Debutify. If you're ready to take the plunge into e-commerce or are looking to up your game, head over to Debutify.com and see how it can change your life and the lives of many through what you do next.